This is Transcending Veils with your host, the lovely and talented Mistress of the Macabre, Audra Moon. Also joining us is the newest member of our team, an incredibly talented and beautiful young lady. Please welcome Alexis Reeves. I'm your host, D.E. Riley, and welcome to the podcast. Ladies, how are we doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we've had quite a lot going on this week. What we're going to do tonight, guys, is we are going to talk about current events. We had the Congressional Oversight Committee meet this week in Washington, D.C., with three whistleblowers talking about UAPs and UFOs, and we're getting disclosure on that finally from the government. And we're going to discuss that a little bit. No, we're going to discuss it the whole show, not just a little bit tonight. One thing I do have to say on this, and maybe it's just me, but it seemed like everybody I've talked to was like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
we knew this shit already. We figured it out a long time ago,
Yeah.
My big question, here's the big question that popped into my twisted head was, if they have captured UAPs and UFOs and they're doing reverse technology on these things to figure out how they work and how they fly, then that must mean these things are producing some type of free, unharnessed energy in order to move them around. Why am I still paying $3.85 a gallon for gas? Why? If they already know this shit and they reversed engineered this stuff, we shouldn't be paying for energy at all. All that shit should be free now.
Yeah.
That's my big question. I
That's a
went
fair
to fill
point.
my tank up on my truck
Mhm.
and I was like, Jesus Christ, $100,
Mhm.
crazy.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm sure by now everybody has either watched the hearings, heard excerpts from the hearings. It's all over social media. It's everywhere on TikTok and YouTube and uh, Facebook and everything, everywhere you go. So the hearing was held on July the 26th. They had three whistleblowers. Now I found out they originally had four, but one of them had already been gotten to by the Defense Department, and he was told, "You're not going," and
Oh.
so he backed out of it at the last minute. So there was originally four, but the one thing that I found really intriguing was one of the guys that it was in charge of the investigation committee, uh, Tim Tim Burchett. He was a part of the investigation committee. He was allowed access to read and watch literally tons of classified material. Okay, tons of this stuff,
Mhm.
and this is stuff that has never been seen, never been released to the public in any way, shape, or form. And he said what he saw in those files absolutely shocked him. He said the U.S. government has officially been documenting UFOs, UAP encounters since 1897.
Wow.
1897, over
Oh.
100 years worth of documentation and
Yep.
report compiled by the government. He said the people of the United States, the world, are not prepared for what I have seen. But he also goes on
Oh,
to say
wow.
that we need to end the secrecy and the cover-ups, open the files, show the public. They know what's going on. They're not stupid.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Exactly.
that's huge. That is huge.
That
But
is.
but yeah, the three whistleblowers they had were Lieutenant Ryan Graves. He was the head of Americans for Safe Aerospace, former F-18 pilot, and also a UFO UAP witness. We had Dave Grush uh, of the Pentagon, former senior intelligence officer, the National Geospace Intelligence Agency, and a senior tech advisor for UAP issues. And he's never had any type of encounter, never seen it before. But he has seen all the reports and everything have come right straight through him. And then also David Fravor, who's a retired Navy commander and a naval pilot and a UAP witness for the most infamous one here lately, the Tic Tac um, UAP. So that's where we're at. But yeah, there was, like I said, they confirmed that there are UFOs and UAPs, and they have been visiting Earth for quite some time, and the government has known about this. Now, I personally have seen a UFO. It was absolutely something I couldn't explain. And the funny thing was, it was actually touched on um, later on in the broadcast that, and I believe it was Ryan Graves who brought it up, and he said that he absolutely witnessed one that was as large as a football field. So you're talking 100 yards, 300 long, and he's
Those
never
were
seen
the
anything
exact
that
words
big.
that he used.
Right, never seen anything that big flying through the air, which is every bit of what I saw when I witnessed that UFO. This thing was massive; it took up the whole sky. So it that kind of reaffirmed my story to me anyway. I'm still looking for the other people that were in that uh, intersection that night to come forward and talk. Maybe they will now if they hear this and it gets out. I don't know. But Alexis, what you've had experiences with UFOs, with the extraterrestrials. What's your input? What do you think about all of this?
Well, I'm personally, I'm not surprised, because of, well, everybody already figured in, the aliens were real. But my input would be that they're releasing this now because people have so much evidence of it, with their cell phones and everything. So they have no choice but to release it at this point.
Uh-oh.
And I mean, I could go on a whole conspiracy theory, distracting us from other things with this information coming out now, but we're not going there. Not going there right now. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I find it very cool, very fascinating that they're finally releasing all this, and I do wonder how much are they going to fully release with their documents and
Well,
files.
I think they're just hitting the tip of the iceberg right now. I think there's a lot more to go. And there's still, I want to see some. I want to see something. Okay, you've talked about it. Told us, I want to see
Oh
something
yeah.
now. That's got to be the next step, as far as I'm concerned.
hmm
Audra, you sat through
Yes.
this, and I'm sorry, but government meetings are like the most fucking boring thing in the world. And
You know something? I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it and I'm like, all right, get over the thank yous and the formalities.
yeah,
Let's go.
they,
Like,
they,
you don't need to thank every
hmm
Tom, Dick, and Harry that shows up here 50,000 times.
yeah, I mean, every senator and congressman that was in that room thanked the whistleblowers, I think 5 or 6 times. It was just
Exactly.
fucking
But
ridiculous.
I'm sure in the back of their minds, they're like, you sons of bitches coming forward with all of this shit. You're just supposed to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
and the
hmm
the it like I said, nothing to me was a surprise, but it was good to hear somebody come forward and affirm that. And Grush was probably the most talkative of all three of the whistleblowers. I mean, he was like, there was a lot of stuff that he refused to answer, but in refusing to answer, he answered the question, if you know what I mean. He's, oh, I can't, I cannot
hmm
give you an answer
So
on that, because it's classified, blah, blah, blah. Well, by saying that, you're saying, yeah, it's true, or no, it's not. You're answering their
Exactly.
question,
Exactly.
you're just not coming out. You're not implicating yourself in that. So, you can't be blamed for that. But,
yeah,
I think one of the neatest things that we came
hmm
across was when they asked him, "Are we in possession of UFOs, UAPs. Have we captured any?
Yep.
He said,
Yep.
yes, we have captured them. We've shot them down. We've got them after they've crashed. And then they asked him, were there any beings aboard? And he said there were biologics that came from some of the recoveries, which he said he's not going to say human beings because they aren't. Um, they were biological forms, life that were recovered also. So they have the bodies, they've got the
So
Mm-hmm.
let me check
and
my notes here.
yeah,
Just
and like I said, nobody that has studied UFOs, that believed in UFOs, was surprised by any of this. The here I go. I'm gonna catch shit. I know it already because I see it coming. But the only people that were upset about this were the Christian community because all of a sudden they're wrong. We aren't the
yeah,
only one,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been
Yep.
blasting us with that for years and years and years. And you have to be so fucking narrow-minded to think that an endless expanse of space with endless planets and galaxies and solar systems, that there's no other life out there anywhere. Come on, let's get real
yeah.
about this. It
Mm-hmm.
is mathematically impossible for that to happen. You can't do it. There's gonna be something else out there, So, I mean, I've heard it. I believe me. I got blasted with those videos of, well, the aliens are demons and they're children of Satan, and God, give me a break,
You
No, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
it's funny that you say that because so one of my things is um especially with my stance on the government, I overanalyze everything that they're not saying and everything in between the lines. And I thought it was really, really interesting. Let me see. Let me go through my notes because I definitely put it down there. Um, where is it? Basically, it was Burchett. Burchett claimed that the devil was in their way, which is the Christian ideology, whatever. Okay. The devil was in their way between roadblocks with the Pentagon, members, and the intelligence community. Okay. How? Because you're not
Mm.
explaining how. The
Mhm.
other thing I want to point out too, which
Right.
I don't know if people picked up on, but I picked up on it and I thought it was weird and it could be nothing. But you've got what was the chairman? I can't remember his name now. He actually, I have his name written down. He was discussing when he was doing his opening, Grothman. He was when he was doing his opening, he was mentioning about a book that he was obsessed with as a kid, and it was UFOs and flying saucers. And he was reading off of something, and he was talking about how they pose a threat to national security.
Mhm.
And in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
this, he paused and he was intently reading his paper and he stumbled over himself, and you can tell he clearly brushed over something
Uh-huh.
that was written down in that first 5 minutes. And he went on
Yep.
to say, well, either way. Okay, well, what was on that paper? See, the problem is
Right.
they talk a lot about transparency in this whole, hearing. And they talk about how, civilians have the right to transparency from their government. But in the same breaths, multiple times they're mentioning, well, we can't, this is sensitive information that if, released could compromise national security.
Right.
Well, Which is it? Is it transparency, or is it you're still gonna cover
Mm-hmm.
everything?
You know, when they talk
You know?
about transparency, the transparency that they're talking about is just what they want you to see. You know, that's as transparent as they're gonna get. They're controlling that
Exactly.
transparency. You know, they've got the dimmer switch
Uh-huh.
in their hand as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I heard something other, how they were talking about how they don't they don't see uh UAPs or UFOs or aliens as a threat to national security. They did say that in like the first 5 minutes, and that they require
Mm-hmm.
no further study because they're not worthy, it's not important enough, whatever. But then they go on to ask all three witnesses their opinion on, do you believe that UAPs prove a threat to our civilians, our military? And all three of them say absolutely. And
oh
when
yeah,
questioned why, it was because of the advanced technology that they were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But they keep going back and forth between it's a threat and then it's not. But the witnesses, and I believe they also touched on civilians stating that it's a threat, you know?
Hmm. And I
So,
mean, I can understand that if you've got the technology to maneuver aircraft the way these things maneuver,
mhm.
yeah, there's no way you can beat that. You know, you just can't do it. That thing will outmaneuver you, and you know, God only knows, probably outgun you at every turn. Um,
Mhm.
we can't, you know, we can't go that fast. We cannot make a 90-degree turn at a
No.
thousand miles an hour. We would turn to jelly on the inside. You know, I mean, it's just not possible to do that. Um,
The
so
Tic
yeah,
Tac
it's
incident
gonna
they were
be, it's
yeah.
gonna be a threat simply because of that.
Mhm. Well, they were talking about the Tic Tac incident where this thing was level with the plane, and all of a sudden at supersonic speed took off, and they lost the tracking of it. They couldn't find it. When they did figure out where it was, in less than a minute it was 60 miles away.
Mhm. Which is right on top of you if you're in a jet. I mean, 60 miles is nothing. That's, less
Mhm.
than a blink of an eye. So
Yep.
that's terrifying, to have something that can maneuver that well come in so close that quickly. There's nothing you can do
Yeah.
about it, not a thing. Um, da, 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 da. Yeah, it's Congressman Getz stated that also that he had personally seen film images and radar records um, of the military of pilots observing triangular flying objects maneuvering in ways that were not humanly possible. Um,
Mhm.
and when approached, the pilots lost all their radar and FLR systems and everything, just completely, jammed them. So they have that capability. So yeah, that's going to be by any means of the
Mm-hmm.
imagination be considered a military threat.
Yep.
Because there's no defense that you can have against something that jams your radar. It just there is none.
Right.
And then moves like that. But the who was Grush had stated that he has met individual. Oh yeah, he has met individual that have come in contact and have knowledge of beings of non-human origin and non-human origin aircraft. So there are people out there right now that are working with these things and have seen these things, and there have been instances. Grush admitted that he has heard rumors of reprisals against him and the other whistleblowers, um, and he's honestly in fear for his life for coming forward as a whistleblower. And
He
that,
stated that he stated that he suffered retaliation for his decision to come forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there, they also went on, Grush stated that there have been multiple people injured or killed by both UAPs and members of the government. I mean, he just came right out and said that. According to Grush,
Mm-hmm.
what he has witnessed has been very disturbing. So there is
Mhm.
absolutely, and I mean, we all knew this. It's absolutely a government cover up going on with all of this. But the question, I guess, boils down to why. Why
Right.
why
Right.
to the point where you're knocking people off for what they know about
Yeah.
this stuff. You know, I that part I don't get because the general overall consensus of the population anymore is just show us the shit. Let's get on with our lives. We've got
Right.
it. Why is it that secret that people are getting hurt, people are getting harmed over? I don't understand that part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
It raises a question too of so how they initially opened it with any reports of a UAP, you know, weren't a threat to national security and all of that stuff. Um, they were talking about how they're not a threat, but yet you have all of these accounts of them of people who say, "Well, we're afraid to come forward because of the government." Okay, so if UAPs, UFOs, aliens, whatever you want to call them, are not a threat, then why is the government trying to keep it so quiet?
uh-huh.
You know, clear. And the other thing too was I was listening to someone's TikTok who was speaking on it, and they were talking about if UAPs or aliens or anything of the extraterrestrial nature are threats, we as civilians deserve to know what we could potentially be facing in the event of, and I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
went on to talk about like War of the Worlds kind of thing, and which I don't know if that's how it would end up, but it could. And we're not going to be well prepared. Our
Yeah.
military, and they asked the witnesses who were obviously in the service that if they feel they are equipped to deal with UAPs. And they said, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's far beyond any capability that we have got or we even know
Mhm.
how to.
Which is it's a shame too, because Gersh had stated when the UAP task force director, sorry, can't speak today, asked him to identify all special access programs and controlled access programs. He was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. So, you know, we've had all of this time. And like you said, you dug up from the 1800s, the late 1800s. We've had all this time to come forward and say something. You
Right.
know what I mean? So why now? That's my question is why are you all allowing this? Just I understand they're not coming right out and like showing proof and releasing all these documents and all that stuff, but they're entertaining the whistleblowers, the witnesses.
Hmm.
Finally, after all these years, why?
Yeah,
What is that we need to know that you're not telling us? Why are you willing to come forward now when just you know 40 years ago, Roswell, longer than that, 40 years ago, Roswell was 1947, I believe.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so 1947 in Roswell. So how come now when you've been contradicting yourself for decades?
Hmm. And I can understand it
Well,
50 years ago, you know,
Mhm.
but I don't get it now, you know, and and it's so weird because there's such a huge uptick in these sightings. And I don't know if it's because
Mhm.
everybody's carrying a phone around now that has the capabilities of being a camera and a
Yeah.
recorder. And because before, if you
hmm
caught one, it was just by accident. You had a camera or a videotape camera in your
well,
hand, you know, at that time. But now it's instantaneous images, and so I don't know if it's that or
exactly.
if they are coming forward now because they're going, hey, we need to get these people ready because these folks are coming, you know.
Mhm.
And is it that? I don't know. You know, that's everybody's got a different opinion on that, so I'm not sure. What do you what's your take on that, Alexis? Is that as far as the African sighting?
Okay, okay. So my theory on why they're coming forward now is they're in too deep. You know what I mean? Because of how you brought up that a lot of people are coming forward with this proof with their cell phones and everything, and they want to make sure because in the briefing they had done all those polls, and a lot of Americans are having a harder and harder time trusting government,
Mhm.
right? So they can't keep covering this up. So in order to make sure that we start to trust them again, they have to let this out, but they can't let it fully out because not not everybody's going to be prepared for that. Because as you had brought up earlier about people's differing beliefs, it could cause, I don't want to say pandemonium, but if all of a sudden we're in war of the worlds and nobody was prepared for that, and it's going to be complete
Mhm.
chaos, and they're just in
Mhm.
too deep now at this point. So they have to start releasing it little by
Yeah.
little. And maybe the reason why they didn't release it before is they didn't think people could handle it. And also, you know, what if the experiments they were doing on the aliens were so incredibly inhumane that it would turn the American people even further away from them? So there's also that
You would end up
theory,
with
that
Wait a
thought.
minute,
fully
they've
like
been doing anal probes on us for years, okay? That's
we're allowed to do
that's inhumane, right?
it.
No, but the I yeah uh, I don't know. You know, it's like, what's the next step? Where are we going to go from here as far as this goes? Or there's so many different
Uh-huh.
things I'm looking at in this because it opens so many doors. It's like,
Mhm.
where do we go from here? Are we going to actually see any of
Mm-hmm.
it? Are we going to have any
Yep.
more hearings, or this thing's just going to die right here? Um,
Yeah.
is there anybody out there that's going to step up and force
Uh-huh.
this issue? Um, on the other side of the fence, are they
I think
throwing
so.
this out there because this is all smoke and mirrors because there's some big guy in the White House that they found high octane nose candy in his bedroom and don't want to explain how it got there, and a whole bunch of other shitty stuff going on, and they don't want your attention that way. They want it
Mm-hmm.
over here. So
Yep.
we're gonna now, hey guys, we got ET running around. So you know what?
Yep.
There's so many different ways you can take it. And I don't want to make this a political show by any means. I don't want anything to do with that. This is an escape from all of that shit, but that's got to play in there somewhere. And
Right.
you know, people are thinking that this is just smoke and
Yep.
mirrors. So you're not seeing the coke on mirrors over
Mm-hmm.
here, you know, and it's, you know, there's so many
Yep.
variables, and it's just, it's like it left, I guess it left me with more questions than it answered, you know, because the questions they answered are shit I already had figured out to begin with. And now it's like, okay, what's the real reason, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
It was
Now,
a lot of
granted,
repetitive
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
The one thing that I did find interesting um, was Gersh. He was asked by Garcia, you know, and this touches on like them confirming that, you know, our government has had their hands on aliens and UFOs for decades now. But when Garcia had asked him, "Do you believe that
Mhm.
the United States government is in possession of UAPs?" Gersh answered, "Yes, and I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General." But if he's a whistleblower, which he is, fine, and I know he's already faced retaliation, why are you quiet about the locations? Why wouldn't you say they are located here, 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 and here, and they are
Mhm.
being investigated? No, instead, I know the exact locations, and all of that information was provided to the Inspector General. Wouldn't you want to just let it out at that point? And how did you come to obtain these? How did you come to obtain the locations? Now, the other thing that I want to touch on as far as that goes is when he was informed of the multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, he had requested access to the additional read-ons to it, and he was denied. And it was after he had requested them that he was retaliated against um, by our government, basically. But how did he obtain the locations of them if he was denied access
Mhm.
to you know to those documents?
Oh yeah, that's a fair
Hmm.
point.
I I don't have an answer for that. Yeah,
And
I can only,
if he
I mean,
can retaliate,
the guy worked for the Pentagon. He's
no.
he's
Yeah.
he's walking through a top secret area to
Yeah.
begin with.
Hmm.
It would seem to me if you're there to begin with, and you are part of a team that is supposed to be studying uh, UAPs and UFOs and the technology, you're going to get your fingers into things that maybe weren't meant for you to see,
Hmm.
but you can nose around a little bit. I
Mhm.
know, you know, okay. I was in management at some places, and I'm not going to say where it was, but you could nose around in files a lot of times, and
Hmm.
without anybody knowing. That happens quite often. Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so it's that's not out of the question about how he found out. You can find shit out. That's pretty easy. I found out a lot of stuff on other employees that I'm sure I wasn't supposed to know.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's not that it ever amounted to anything or went anywhere. It's just my own
Hmm.
Mm.
morbid curiosity, I guess. Um, and the thing is, and the one thing that they did touch on this that's so very true is, you know, why haven't these been reported? Why haven't there have been better records kept of them? Because there hasn't been any way to do it. If
Oh
an
yeah.
airline pilot
Hmm.
comes forward and says he saw a UFO and goes and files a report on it, next thing you know, he's out for literally weeks being interrogated, and they
Yep.
might write him off as mentally incompetent to fly an airplane, and he could lose his livelihood.
Yeah.
But you just
Or it
don't.
comes back as just a fun story amongst friends now. That
Exactly,
was one that
exactly,
used.
and one of them said that that being a naval pilot, he said we've all seen them, all of us, and
Hmm.
there was no formal way of going about reporting them, so it was just stories we traded across the dinner table, and they just became entertainment after a while, but
Yeah.
it
And
was common knowledge in the military community that they're out there,
Yeah.
As far
But
as
what has happened to the rest of these people? Because they discussed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's no proper way to report it. Okay. But they've also discussed how, you know, active duty and in our military who have seen these and pilots who have seen these are too afraid to come forward because there's not a system in place that protects them.
Mhm.
They're too afraid to come forward for retaliation from their government, losing their jobs and their physical well-being. So I'm sure a bunch of them have seen, others try and report it and say, like you said, be interrogated and come back completely different or not come back at all, maybe. And then they're like, no, we've seen it, but we're not going to say anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is just going to be a story. We're not going to report it. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
If we talk about it at all.
Yeah. And it's the reward isn't worth the risk, I guess is what it would
Yeah.
boil down to there, unlike me, I mean, if I was in that situation
Mm-hmm.
and I saw something, fuck everybody would know. I
Mm-hmm.
tell everybody, man, because I
Well,
tell
that
everybody shit now, and.
because I was
Yep.
just having this conversation and I was like, I said, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut at all. So
No,
it's
and
just
that's
I would be taking like little ET to the casino with me.
that's why we do this. I mean,
Mhm.
it because we can't keep our mouth shut. We
Yeah.
want to talk about this stuff. We want to bring light to it. We want to bring it out in the open. But it's sad that um, people run the risk that they're actually. Oh, we lost Audra.
Oh
Actually, fear for
no.
their lives. Over this stuff, and their jobs and their
Mm-hmm.
livelihood that should not
Yeah.
even exist. And it just boggles my mind. You know?
Right. And now they're coming
Yeah,
forth with
and
this.
I think
Yeah. Yeah. Now they're coming forth, and
Yeah.
it's like, what about the people that were threatened before with this? And that they're
yeah,
probably sitting there like,
yeah.
what?
But
Because they were probably threatened with losing their jobs and everything else. And now
yeah,
it's
and
come forward. It's
hopefully
like,
that'll
oh
open the
boy.
door for other people, to step forward. But like I said, me personally, show me some
Yeah.
stuff. I want to see these spacecraft. I want to see
Yeah.
these shocking images. I want to, I want to see this stuff. I mean, it's they, it
Right.
came forward and said the government has been in contact with life forms of non-human origin since the 1930s. They have had contact with aliens in the 1930s,
Wow.
and we're just finding out about this in 2023. That's insane. That's almost 100 years later. And there's just
Unless, unless they, yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
just no excuse for that as far as I'm concerned. That doesn't make sense. I can't
Nope.
wrap my head around how that would make sense to anyone to hold on to this information, and hold on to this knowledge. But
Unless they made, some kind of treaty with the aliens, like, hey, we got to stay quiet for, X amount of time, and then you can
yeah,
release it. You
and
know what I mean? Like, what if
it's
that's why?
another reason, another example that was thrown out there was the good old dollar sign. There has to be a way to make a profit off of
Mm-hmm.
this knowledge. There has to be a way for the government to make a profit off this knowledge. In fact, they
Yep.
asked Grush about these secret agencies that investigate this stuff and how they were getting funding, how they were getting taxpayer funding for these agencies. And it turns out, well, what happens is the taxpayer is paying their money to this government agency over here. And they say, well, we really don't need all of this, so here's this much back.
Mm.
Well, then they take that extra money and they funnel it over here to this shadow agency that is doing this investigation. So they're getting, you know, money
Okay.
siphoned to them from all these other agencies, and it's like, come on, folks, the Pentagon's losing over $1 billion, just losing $1 billion a year. Just lost it. Don't know where I put it. It was in my wallet. I don't know where I put it. So why are they so? Yeah, it just
It's
goes,
just
and
weird.
it's funny. I'll have to send you guys this video I found on how
Mm-hmm.
it was how the government loses $1 trillion, and it shows you an example of how that is lost over things getting moved here and moved there and moved there. And next thing you know, there's all
Uh-huh.
these pieces in this like little chessboard gone, yet the chessboard is still adding up to the same amount of pieces on it. It you look at it and you go, okay, I'm witnessing this, but
Oh boy.
what the fuck is that working? And I watched it 10 times and I still don't understand it. But
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time figuring out how to work a doorknob too. But yeah, the thing is, so there's all of this money being channeled under the table into these secret organizations to investigate this stuff. So, that is another thing that that did come to light that nobody thought of before. It is the dollar sign in this. And like I said at the beginning, if they are
A
running
very fair
reverse
point. Yeah.
technology on all of these things, why are we still paying so much for energy? That should be free now.
Mhm.
Should have that shit figured out. Um,
Well, that's like the meme that's going around now. It's like, oh, the government released and confirmed that there are such things as aliens, and nobody's moved, and everyone's like, yeah, well, I mean, the cost of living is too high. When are you
mhm.
gonna
Mhm.
drop my rent? So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like it. It's true.
They're
No one cares. No one, and that's the thing. I mean, people
Yeah.
care. We care about finding out the truth and stuff like that. But like, it's common knowledge. We know, like we're not, I mean, with the
Mm-hmm.
exception of, Christians, we know. We know. I will say this though, and it's, not just because of me being me and loving to rattle the cage, but I can't wait for something to come forward and this disrupts all of the Christians' ideology. They're
mm,
gonna go nuts. They're gonna be like, "What? Our book is a lie?
Oh yeah.
and
There's no aliens in the good book." Well,
yeah, there is. As a matter of fact, you just
oh, is it?
depends on how you interpret it.
Oh.
But I think
Oh, well,
and
they're not
all
gonna interpret it that way.
to all my Christian friends out there, I'm not meaning to piss you off or upset you. Okay, you're free. It's a free country. You're free to worship in any way
Mm-hmm.
you choose. Okay,
Absolutely.
but don't come knocking me if you ain't getting.
Yes.
Don't expect to get knocked back. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll put it like that because I've been attacked
Okay.
already for
Yep.
this show, and I'm
Ah,
getting tired of being beat up. Okay,
you
and
know,
I believe me, I'm getting tired of
Yeah, that's fair.
the emails and the messages and Instagram of that I need to find God and all that kind of stuff. Please stop sending that shit to me, okay? I don't appreciate
send
it.
it to
And
me instead.
this is my this is my personal opinion. If you don't buy it, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not going to lose 1 minute sleep whether you believe me or not. I really
Mm-hmm.
don't care. Um,
No,
so, please don't let me be the cause of you not finding salvation or getting a good night's sleep or anything like that. Okay. If you don't agree with anything we're talking about, just hit that off button over there and shut it
just
off.
agree
You
to
know?
disagree.
Yeah.
But if
You
you
let,
guys
Mm-hmm.
are,
fine.
if you're
Yep.
looking for a confrontation, I'm the one to come to.
Audra's always looking for a fight. Always looking for a fight.
Always. Always.
But Anyway, getting back over to the topic again, I'm trying to go through here and find out if there are. One thing I found interesting though was Congressman Guest stated that he's personally seen film and radar records of the military pilots observed. I went over that already. Triangular objects. Um, but he went on to say that when approached for these records, for the the radar recordings, for the flight recordings, um, they're just gone. Nobody knows where they went. They just disappeared. And that, yeah,
Oh, surprise,
it's
surprise.
there has been tons of reports and records lost over the years that they just don't know where they went to anymore. Um, and again, surprise me? No, not at all. Um, but there's still a lot of cover up going on, and I want to know why. Damn it! Somebody give me an answer. There's no reason to be covering this shit up anymore. We are grown adults.
Hmm.
I'm getting old. I'm gonna die soon, guys. Come on, give me the goods. I
That's
want
right.
it.
That's right.
He
Um,
wants a pet alien.
yeah, I want to know what I'm missing. I want to see him up close and personal. I want him on the Tonight Show. I want
Yeah.
I mean, by all
Hmm.
means. And I've been my sister is a UFO fanatic. You guys know my sister. She's a UFO
Hmm.
fanatic. She knows more about UFOs, UAPs than anybody. Her library, I bet, is 75% books on UFOs.
That's awesome.
So I mean, she can carry on a conversation about UFOs, and you know, I talked to her about. I said, "Hey, did you you know did you watch the hearings?" She said, "Yep." I said, "Are you surprised? Did you learn anything?" And she goes, you know, so apparently not. She wasn't impressed by any of it. So
Mhm.
it left a lot of people flat like that. And it's like I said, it set the stage for they're going to have to get bigger. They're going to have to bring out some big guns here
Hmm.
in the next go around, if there is a next go around, and that's going to be interesting to see if they make a
Yeah.
step. What,
Yep.
which way do you think they're going to go on this? Do you think they're going to take another step forward on this? Do you think they're going to spill some more, or are we just going to get the same shit repeated over and over and over again to smooth the ruffled feathers?
I think they're just gonna.
It's probably just going to depend on how the
Well,
public
see, that's what
responds.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say that they're probably gonna keep giving us the same thing over and over and over until the public's like, "Hey, no, 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 no! This is
Hmm.
enough of your roundabout bullshit. Like, you need to tell us what is going."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem too, is Alexis touched on it, and how nobody trusts the government anymore. They want us to trust them, because if we don't trust them, we don't
Mm-mm.
follow them, you
Well,
know?
there's just so much fishy shit that
Exactly.
that surrounds that. I mean,
Mhm.
and and things that
Yep.
pertain to the government. Um, and it's like one of the things that went through my mind when I was
Hmm.
watching this is, hmm, I wonder which one is just going to disappear. I wonder which one's going to commit suicide, and I wonder which one is just going to say it was all a lie. I
Hmm.
made it all up. You know, how's that going to play out with these whistleblowers? Are more people going to come forward, or are these guys going to disappear into the woodwork, or are they going to be disappeared? You know, that's the question. That's the question. How are they going to handle these guys?
Yeah.
Right now there's a lot of scrutiny on
Yep.
them. Right now, people are watching them very, very closely. They're, I'm sure, talk show darlings. I don't watch talk shows, so I don't know. But
Mhm.
uh, once that starts to go away and starts to die down, are they going to disappear? just nobody's going to hear from them anymore. What, you know? We can make
Yeah.
predictions on that all night long and get into conspiracy theories on that, and put on our tinfoil hats.
Mm-hmm.
You own one, don't you?
we,
Tinfoil hats
we
work.
should
I'm
have
just
came
throwing that out
on
there real
here
quick.
all with tinfoil
Yeah,
hats.
I thought about it.
But you know something, here's
Yeah.
my problem, okay?
They work.
Sensory
They do.
issue. I hate tinfoil. I wouldn't have been able to, even for the good of the show, wouldn't have been able to do it.
Nah.
When my husband messes with tinfoil, I'm like,
They
just stop.
they do make you they do make you feel very calm though. I'll sit around in the house with a tinfoil hat. I have no problem with that. It quiets everything. So
I couldn't
but,
do it because it
yeah.
wouldn't quiet anything for me. I would be so still as to not make noise. And if
It
I
is a
heard
god
it,
awful
oh
noise.
my
Yeah.
God. Oh, see,
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can see it, but I
Mm-hmm.
am getting goosebumps thinking about it.
All
Nope.
right.
Like makes my
Okay.
teeth hurt.
What else? We're closing in. We're within 10 minutes of having to cut this thing off. Anybody
Yeah.
got any last minute stuff they want to say or input as far as these hearings go? And please step up. Silence.
I'm willing to bet
Oh.
that you're going to see a lot of America putting pressure on our government now. 100%, because they didn't get the answers they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
There's going to be pressure put down on the US government, and they're going to have to do some damage control. That's what I see happening for the near future.
It's funny because I'm not so sure I
Absolutely.
agree with you on that.
No,
And
we
here's why.
disagree.
Here's why. Yeah, we disagree at times. That's okay. We're adults. We can do that.
You're not supposed to disagree with me. I'm a woman.
Well, no, it's just that Americans as a whole are very self-centered and very selfish.
No,
We
that's
think we have a tendency to think about ourselves.
There's that.
How is this directly going to benefit me and my family and my pocketbook? Is it going to change the price of gas? Is it going to change the price of groceries? Is it going to change the price I pay for electricity and my utilities? Is it going to have any effect on any of that? If it's not, I really don't give a shit, you know.
Americans like to be right
That's
too,
fair.
like humans, not Americans. Humans.
Well,
Naturally, we want to be right.
well, of course, of course. But we're also naturally curious and naturally inquisitive, and we're going to want more answers. And it may not be a huge pressing issue, simply because people worry more about, do I put gas in the car or buy groceries, right now.
Yeah.
But they're still going to want to know. They're going to want to know more answers. And I would like, I am excited, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here and what the next step is. Um, like I said, there's several different variables and several
Definitely be
different
interesting.
variables and several ways it can go. And I hope to God, I'm talking about God, me, but as far as the whistleblowers go, nothing comes of their. I hope they remain healthy and happy and carry on
Yeah.
a wonderful and prosperous life. I wish all the best for them.
Ultimately.
And at the risk of sounding like a congressman, I want to thank them for
Yes.
stepping forward today with their stories and their honesty on the situation. We do appreciate that. But man, it took some balls, to get up there and do
That
that,
took a lot of
especially
courage.
after you've
Mm-hmm.
blatantly received threats and been told not to do that.
Yeah, you were told.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Stay
Yeah.
away. Don't you dare tell on us. So.
But yeah, like I said, the next step is going to be an interesting one. Alexis,
Yeah.
what do you think? Where do you think this is going to go?
Like like we've been saying, like it could go so many different ways, and I really feel like it depends on how the public is going to respond
Yep.
to this, like, and also like you had stated how, in general, Americans, well, just I guess people in general at this point are pretty, self-focused, and if it's not benefiting them knowing this information, why are they going to care? Because we have become so used to, at this point, just receiving just crazy information at all times, even, like through our phones. So we become so desensitized to everything that this is just, they're like, oh, well, if they talk more about it, cool. If they don't, cool. But at some point we have to take a stand and figure out which direction we want to go, just, with our government, and this goes along with it. Like, are we going to take a stand and have our voice heard? And like, these people, these whistleblowers came forward, and it took a lot of courage, and I hope people take this seriously. I really do. That's where I stand with this.
I think it would.
And I hope nothing happens.
I think it would be really
to them,
really cool, if they actually brought forward one of these non-human biologics, as they put it.
Yeah.
And he was carrying the flight log from Epstein's Island. I think that would be awesome. Kill two birds with one stone there, yeah. Epstein's flight log. That would be great. But
oh, ET's got it. Uh-oh.
Yeah, people on some other planet know all about it, but we don't, But yeah, okay. Well, guys, this has been fun. It's been interesting. I mean, it's we all we can do is give our opinions and voice our views on this kind of stuff. And we got confirmation on a lot of stuff that we already had figured out, as we said all along. And I think people need to go back, check out our original UFO show, where Alexis was on there and talked about her encounters with UFOs. I think I discussed mine. Audra is the odd man or woman out, as the case may be.
Yeah.
She's never come across anything like that. But she has had other weird experiences. So.
My spirit.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Jesus. My experiences do not lie in the extraterrestrial realm. That's all paranormal. So it's like, I don't know. I'm a little jealous.
Well, yeah. I mean, even my kids seen UFOs, so So it's, hey, just keep looking up. They're up there. They're out there. People are seeing them
always
every day.
I never see them. They don't like me.
Nah, not that they don't like you. Maybe they're afraid of you.
I mean, could be.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap this up for another edition of Transcending Veils. Once again, we share this evening with you and our hosts, Audra Moon and Alexis Reeves. For myself and them, thank you for tuning in. That's always, guys, keep it spooky, Ladies.
Good night, guys.
All right, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Input on future episodes, comments, questions, feel free to reach out to us at transcendingveils@gmail.com. We also have our Facebook page, Transcending Veils Podcast. We are also on Instagram at Transcending Veils. Or if you guys want to reach out directly to myself or D.E. Riley, you can find us on Instagram at Audra Moon _ or Not Really Willie. And we look forward to having you on our next show. We're so glad you could tune in with us tonight. And I think that about wraps it up.